of abundance. Surely you can still pursue no distraction.
Never did I expect that every encounter with you would always be in moments of distress.
Fugue is almost here, and she is, at least as of this moment, the final chance for any of us to solidify our Superr Break comps. Whether that be Firefly, Rappa, Boot Hill, or Jingyuin, please don't run Superr Break Jingyuin. Regardless of who you main, you kinda need Fugue. In today's video, I'll be covering my first impressions on Fugue's value, strength, and purpose in current Superr Break comps. We'll showcase a number of different teams with most of my thoughts, what she does on those teams, and some ways that might help improve your experience with the character. If you're wondering whether or not you need to pull Fugue to keep your Firefly alive, don't worry, because I'll cover that too. For now, let's start with a basic breakdown of Fugue's kit and her gear. So right here is one of the Fugue sets that I've built with 157 speed, about 1700 attack, 3500 HP, almost 2200 defense, so on and so forth. But what you're really paying attention to here is the break effect. Now, this particular Fugue that I was running is a little different. I wasn't running Talia. I did this specifically for a run that I'll show you guys later on. And instead, I was running something along the lines of this, which is probably going to be my Forge, okay? Which I think this helps me get up to 200, if I'm not mistaken. 176 break effect. I lied, but I have 169 speed, and now I have 2k attack with 3600 HP and 1600 defense. Regardless of that fact, let's break down this. The light cone, do you need this? Probably not. Is this light cone really nasty? Yes. As a Fugue player or whatever it's gonna be, this light cone is really good for the character. 360% break effect to your Fugue. But every weakness break a target, you're going to apply this break damage vulnerability, if I'm not mistaken is the term that's going to be used here. It's going to increase that damage taken by that enemy or from that enemy by 18%, and then it stacks up to 2 times, lasting for 2 turns. Typically speaking, whenever you're playing this character, something's getting broken within 2 turns, and then it's just dead or it gets delayed. And I'll show you guys a little bit more of that when we go over the team section and the gameplay. But for now, just know that this is a pretty big thing. 36% vulnerability towards break damage for any target. This is crazy. One of the important abilities that she does have is going to be this right here, the Verdantia Renaissance, which is going to be able to delay the actions of the enemy targets after being weakness broken. Why this is important is because you're going to be combining this with the likes of HMC, if you decide to do that, or with Ruan Mei, which is probably the most important one here. And then you also have the fact that Quantum and Imaginary, those weakness breaks actually have a further delay on top of that. So it helps with building out a no sustain team so that you don't have to worry about adding anything. Now, to Sustain's credit, gonna throw this out here real quick, guys. All right, we got a powerhouse of a sustain, Linksha. And if you don't have Linksha, we've been talking about this for a little bit now, Gallagher. Gallagher is not going to be able to delay the enemy, but Gallagher is still an amazing sustain that's going to be able to help you out. But as of right now, a lot of my focus has been going towards Linksha. This character's cracked. I told you guys this before she left the banner. And if you got her, amazing. If you didn't, maybe try and grab her on the rerun. But if not, it's totally cool. After that, we can briefly go over the fact that Cloud Flame Luster is going to be what we recently experienced in the MOC, which is going to be Exo Toughness. So this is basically her own version of giving the enemies Exo Toughness. She's going to give them about 40% of whatever their max toughness is to the enemy. This is crazy good for a lot of characters. You guys might have seen Moon's video with Shui Yi showing off that, or Himiko with the breaks. There's so many different things that happen with having Exo Toughness that allows some of these characters that, in my opinion, like the hybrid characters, it allows them to truly shine in this game now, or have a more permanent stature in the game right now, because they're able to take advantage of not only the crit from the initial hit, but they're also able to take advantage of the break effect and the super break that happens on top of that. So some of the gameplay that you guys will see here later on is you're gonna see like 3 super breaks pile up on top of each other. You're gonna see a critical hit from somewhere else, and then you're gonna see the initial break damage as well. It's really good. Another key thing here is she also gives 100% super break damage for one instance, depending on whatever the toughness reduction of this attack is gonna be doing. And this happens from them just being able to get weakness broken, right? Fugue on the field, everyone has this effect. So she's one of those characters similar to Ron May, where if I'm on the field, this effect is a field effect, it's permanent, and you don't have to worry about activating anything else. It's wonderful. Now her skill, Foxy and Prayer. Foxy and Prayer is going to be similar to the actual Ting Yun that we have, the 4-star version. She's gonna use her skill. She's gonna give that ability or that boost to an enemy, or not, my bad, allied, all right, to your ally. She's gonna give this boost to an ally. It's gonna increase their break damage, if I'm not mistaken, as well, or break effect, right? It's gonna increase their break effect by 30%. You guys can see that right here. But one of the other key things here is gonna be this Torrid Scorch stance. It's gonna enhance her basic attack. She's also gonna be able to give the, whoever she gives the ally the boost to, they now have colorless breaking. If you don't know what colorless breaking is basically just like what Shui has, or even Rappa, right? Some of these characters in the game recently have this ability to break down the toughness meter, even if they're not on element. So they're off element and they're still able to do damage to the toughness meter. That's what colorless breaking is. What Fugue's skill is allowing this anybody who's on her team, right? She gives the ability to them. She's giving them the ability to use colorless breaking, which is huge. Now, one of the key things that you're going to pay attention to, and again, you'll notice this when we go over the gameplay, you'll obviously want to give this still, giving them an increase in break effect and being able to have the debuff attached to them with the defense reduction. You'll see that down here at the bottom here for the Foxy and Prayer 100% base chance. You would obviously think you want to give this to your DPS character, and technically you'd be correct, but most of the DPSs that you guys are going to be using has some form of colorless breaking built into their kit. It makes it one of those things where like you probably don't have to use this, but we'll talk about it. And then lastly, we're going to go over her ultimate, which is pretty much going to be just an all-out attack, right? 200% of her attack against all enemies. Pretty good stuff. When you see the super break that happens with this, you can see this going from anywhere between 300k to about 600k. So Fugue has the ability to do damage with his ultimate. It's not a weak ultimate. You can invest into it, and it does help clear the board in some situations. It's also going to have a full-on colorless breaking as well. So this entire ultimate, whatever their element is, doesn't matter. Boom, she's gonna pop it. Sylvan Enigma is going to be able to give her an immediate skill point whenever she uses that, as well as increasing this unit's break effect. This unit being her, by the way, guys. So it's not nothing crazy. Relics, Iron Forge is typically going to be what I run the most. Now you can get a little fancy. You could run stuff like your, where is it at here? Your messenger set. If you want to do the messenger set, you could run stuff like your, we have another one here, Watchmaker as well. If you wanted to run Watchmakers, you can mix and match whatever it is that you want to do. It really just depends on what you're doing with your Fugue. Now, I haven't tested between like a slow Fugue or a fast Fugue and which one might be better or worse. I personally prefer a very fast Fugue, similar to what I do with Ting Yun. I want her to be able to attack all the time because she's very SP positive with the basic attacks after using skill one time. And then technically she gets it for free, right? Because we just went over that with the ability, the bonus ability. So she's going to get that for free. Cool.
Did I conduct myself improperly?
Now, if we were to go over like team comps and whatnot, and how you're essentially playing her, I kind of want to go over a little bit of one of the teams that I did first, and then we'll break it down bit by bit. So we'll start with Acheron. We had Acheron, we had Fugue, we had Jiaosho, and then we had Aventurine. And when I went over this team in particular, or rather while I was playing this team in particular, there were a couple things that I noted about the team that I wasn't really the biggest fan of. And coming from a character, or rather an Acheron main, if you will.
And I guess it's not really fair to say anymore because like I really like me some Rappa,
But whatever. Anyway, Acheron's whole thing is being able to gain stacks passively from everyone else on the team. And then she's able to dish out her ultimate. So of course you want to be able to use this ultimate as much as possible. What ends up happening with Fugue is you kind of trade the nihility factor of this character and you give it to somebody else. So in this case with Aventurine, I'm using Fugue's skill not on Acheron because she already has colorless breaking through her ultimate, but I'm giving Fugue the ability to give that colorless breaking to Aventurine. So whenever he does anything, a basic attack, he drops his follow-up, he does his ultimate, regardless of the light cone that you have available to him, he's able to actually have help put a stack on the board for Acheron. Would I say I'd like to use Fugue over a character like Black Swan or even Robin at E0? I'm not entirely too sure, because what's happening, like I said, is I'm trading Fugue's ability, or anyone else's ability for that matter, to give their natural stack, as well as Aventurine being able to do stacks on his own through the follow-ups or his ultimate, depending on the light cone, or even him getting hit with the preservation light cone that they have. So there's a lot of different factors that go into building the Acheron team. It's not for me to say that Fugue plus Acheron is bad, but it was one of those things where it's very clear to me that I would have to play this team a lot. and I would have to play different variations of this team in order to figure out whether or not I truly like Fugue being a partner to Acheron. If I were to sum that up, and I would say maybe like, hey, would I pull Fugue for Acheron like specifically? Then no, I would have pulled Jiao Shou. I think Jiao Shou was 100% the Foxian that Acheron wants. It's her best partner as of right now. And I feel like Fugue is just okay. It's one of those indirect buffs, if that makes sense, right? Where like you could use Fugue for Acheron if you wanted to, but you could probably find a different position for Fugue that might be better overall. And then you could find another character that might be way better on the Acheron team. After that, I tried the obvious Firefly, Fugue, and then Ruan-Mei and Lingsha. And again, you could replace Lingsha with Gallagher on any of these teams. I personally did not, simply because I really enjoy the way Lingsha plays. So a lot of my testing or footage that you guys are going to see always has Lingsha in it. If not Lingsha, then another DPS character. When it comes to Firefly though, Firefly is one of those characters where I genuinely don't know. I've been playing Rappa so much, it really just feels like Firefly is a little weaker, or a lot weaker compared to Rappa. And when putting Fugue on the team in comparison to having HMC and Firefly on the team, it feels like they're not really doing more. And this isn't a bad thing, but it's not a great thing either, in my opinion, because you already have HMC, you probably already have HMC built up. And now the real issue is that, do you want to use HMC or do you want to prepare and use RMC for the future? Because you can't use both. So if you want to continue to use Superr Break, this is kind of everyone's big issue, right? You have to pull Fugue if you plan on continuing to use Superr Break. And when it comes to using Fugue on the team, the crazy benefit is that Firefly does fire implant on everybody. So everyone is always weak to fire. This turns into an issue where Fugue's skill is completely irrelevant at this point, because now what you would have done was give someone colorless breaking, and because everyone's weak to fire, you already have so many fire units on the team. Who are you going to give that skill to? Ruan-Mei? Ruan-Mei doesn't really need it either, because she's not attacking as often. You want to run slow Mei most of the time when it comes to the Firefly comp. So she's not really benefiting from that. So now you're giving your skill to potentially Firefly or even Lingsha or Gallagher, and they're already doing the fire damage because of Firefly's innate technique to be able to implant fire weakness on everyone. So the real kicker here is the Superr Break instance, or the toughness reduction, right? That one instance of Superr Break that she does whenever she's breaking. But in my honest opinion, I felt like my damage performance with HMC was a lot better than with Fugue. So I feel like this one's just okay. If I were a Firefly main, to be completely honest, I don't know if I would feel comfortable grabbing Fugue and then saying, yo, Fugue completely replaces HMC, and I'm totally comfortable with that. But you play it how you want, right? You guys let me know whether or not you feel like, hey, I really enjoy Fugue and Firefly, so I'm gonna make that work, or I really enjoy HMC and I'm not too much worried about the Remembrance path coming in the future, so I'm gonna deal with whatever that happens and move on from there. It is what it is, but it's a very sticky situation for a lot of you guys. Now me, I'm a little different, and I'm gonna explain why. So if we move on to my next team, which is probably my new favorite team, or one of my new favorite teams in the game, you guys know I love me some Rappa, okay? Rappa is an amazing unit. She's awesome. One of the characters that took me a little bit to understand, but once I understood her, once I started to play around with a lot of the different team mechanics and gimmicks that I could use for this team, it felt like butter. Rappa, Fugue, Ruan-Mei, and Lingsha. And if you guys can't tell, that is pretty much the static trio right there. Fugue, Ruan-Mei, and Lingsha, because she's replacing HMC. Now by herself, Rappa's doing an amazing job. And what ends up happening with this team is, again, you're going to use Fugue to give her skill, give the ability to Lingsha. Lingsha's going to have colorless breaking on everything she does. Basic attack, skills, even her ultimate is going to be able to have colorless breaking attack, and her follow-up, because Rappa doesn't really need it, right? Rappa's ultimate already does colorless breaking, so there's no point in giving that to her. Rappa usually has a bunch of break effect as well, so you're also stacking up so much of it to the point where it's like you would rather give it to the rest of the team to help them benefit. Now I took this a step further. Rappa with this particular team comp was already hitting 2 million damage consistently by herself, and I said, what if we removed Lingsha and maybe I added a character like Himiko? Now what was really cool about this, but a little unfortunate, is that, you know, Himiko is one of those characters where you really have to understand when and how to break units, and it's not even hard to do. It really just comes down to practicing your runs, or maybe paying attention to what's going on the board, you know, the break units, who can do what. And then Rappa kind of makes some of these things finicky, because Rappa just hits everybody for so much break damage or toughness reduction that you really do want to sit there and, you know, like reset here, do this, whatever. But ultimately, I think Fugue and Himiko is such a strong core by themselves that you end up finding different units to work with that. And so while Rappa, Fugue, Ruan-Mei, and Lingsha is an amazing team, I wanted to take it further than that. And that's where I started to experiment. Now, Moon showed me this team, which is wonderful. You guys can actually check that on her channel as well. It's going to be a Shui Yi, Fugue, Ranmei, and Lingsha breakdown. This team, listen, guys, I am a big fan of Shui Yi.
I might just be a big fan of Quantum. I'm not gonna lie to you.
But Shui Yi, I really like Shui Yi because she was the second hybrid character, actually the third hybrid character that we actually got in the game. She's a 4-star, and her whole follow-up talent, and she's the first one that had colorless breaking, and Shui Yi's amazing. Right now, being able to play Shui Yi and revitalize her into the game, and she does considerable damage to the point where she's getting 2 cycles, this is wonderful. And we've already seen that MOC is pretty much buffing itself up, right? The HP of the enemies, the resistances have been getting tougher and higher with each and every update. Seeing Shui Yi pop somewhere around 500k, which is something that she wasn't doing before without having 3 different harmony units on the team, is a wonderful feeling. And her being able to have crit, have super break, have regular break damage, be able to consistently do this is awesome. Now, let me explain something real quick because I mentioned this earlier. Normally, you would want to give Fugue skill to the DPS character, but in this particular case, with Shui Yi having colorless breaking already built into her entire kit, there's no reason for you to do this. So now what you want to do is you want to be able to help the rest of the team give Shui Yi stacks. Just like how Acheron wants stacks from the rest of her team, Shui Yi works similarly, where whenever you do one node or one little tick of toughness reduction, that's going to give a point to Shui Yi. So now you have a character like Lingsha who hits everybody on the board no matter what, and you give her colorless breaking. Now it doesn't matter who's weak to what because she hits everybody. This is going to ramp up Shui Yi's stacks phenomenally. And so where you might get, you know, 1-6 stack here or there, and then maybe an ult every couple of turns, now you're getting your ult every other turn. You're getting your 6 stacks with every rotation through characters, sometimes multiple. It's a wonderful feeling. And to see this team play out live and then like finally get it for yourself, you guys are going to have a great time playing this team. But I pushed this team even further, and I decided, what if I added Himiko to this team? If you can't tell, there's a trend that I'm going with here. And I added Himiko, Shui Yi, I added Ranmei, and then let me actually fix this up because Lingsha was not on this team, guys. It was Fugue. So we had Fugue, Ranmei, Shui Yi, and Himiko on this team, and boy, did I have some fun. This took me a little bit to get used to, though. I think maybe about 30, 45 minutes, give or take, to figure out how I wanted to run this. And then I took this a step further. I ran it through Pure Fiction. I ran it through the Apocalyptic Shadow, and just, you know, I really wanted to play around and just play something that wasn't meta, but still got the job done. Anything that gives me a 3-cycle clear or less, I'm chilling. Because in the game, that's all we really want, right? Is the 3-cycle or less, sometimes 5 cycles or less, because that's going to get us our rewards. With Shui Yi and Himiko, it is break central. There were clips, you guys can actually see this too. There are clips that are happening in the game where I'll use Shui Yi, boom, her talent pops off. Bam, that's a 6 stack right there. She's going to throw her spear and dash. Okay, that's a follow-up talent from her. Oh, we got a break, boom. Himiko comes out of there. Boom, that's awesome. Fugue has exo toughness on the board, and you're gonna break somebody else. Boom. Robot Jones. Oh, Shui Yi gets another stack. Boom, that's amazing. Oh, Robot Jones comes back again because you broke 2 elites. Boom. I love it. And then they have ults, and oh, I'm like, bro, I'm telling you guys, this team is just fun. It's destructive. It's chaotic. That's my thing. I like chaos.
I don't know if it's okay for me to be admitting that Star Rail, but like,
I like chaotic teams. They're crazy fun. And if you want to have fun with the game, I feel like Fugue adds a little bit more flavor or spice, if you will, some salt and pepper to, I'm trying to think of it honestly. Yo, salt and pepper is not spicy, guys. I'm just complete breaking your immersion real quick. Salt and pepper is not spicy, man. All right. Add some paprika, all right, to your little seasoning to your foods. Okay, then the answer is Fugue. But do you need her? And that's kind of the hard thing to decide on, right? Because like even with Boot Hill has Bronya, and then you can put Fugue on the team as well. And like he didn't really need HMC to begin with, you know? Like Boot Hill is kind of that character where like, yeah, I tested it, but does he need it? No. But I think that pretty much wraps it up for me today, guys, right? Because like I don't know. I can't really give you a valid, hey, you should pull this character, you shouldn't pull this character, because it is one of those situations where honestly we're having our leg pulled. I think that's our chain. We're having our chain pulled, right? One way or the other, you're gonna have to make a move. If you want to continue to play Superr Break, you're gonna have to get Fugue. If you don't care about Remembrance Path, then you really don't have a hard choice, right? Just keep using HMC, skip Fugue, and do whatever you want. But if you do want to play Remembrance Path, then you have to get Fugue, and then you're gonna have to invest into Remembrance, and there's so much that happens. Hi. Hey, mamas. Okay, never mind. All right, she just wants some pets, right? Hey, anyway, that's gonna be it for me today, guys. Hopefully you guys enjoyed today's video. Let me know your thoughts and opinions down below. If you like the video, comment, subscribe, all that kind of fun stuff. Let me know if you plan on pulling Fugue and what you expect. If you want me to test something while I still have the time, then by all means, let me know that too. Right now, my favorite teams, I'm telling you guys, Shui and Fugue with Himiko on top. Oh, wonderful. And then if I add Rappa into the mix, listen, I think I might just really be a big fan of Rappa.